Okay guys, let's continue down into the torso to cover muscles below the pectoralis major and then on our back as well. Okay, so the next one is serratus anterior. Anterior should help you, right? Because this is going to be a muscle in front to some degree. Serratus. For serratus, think serrated. Okay, a serrated knife. You have a jagged edge to a serrated knife. Okay, so where are we going to find this? It's going to have jagged edges. I know it's not so easy to see on this guy, but these are going to start on the rib cage and they attach back here to the bottom of the scapula, and they're going to pull that scapula forward. Okay, so I thought what a good way to show this would be with some boxers, and this guy down here is the first one. Okay, so you notice this guy on the bottom left, he's not doing a full push-up. A push-up would illustrate a bunch of things, wouldn't it? A push-up would straighten the arm, so we'd have this elbow extension, probably some tricep involved. If you did a full push-up, of course there would be pectoralis major involved. He's not doing that. He's just keeping his arm straight and going in and out with his chest, right? And this is showing how his scapula bone is kind of sliding forward. It's being pulled forward. This is called protraction of the scapula. Okay, here we have a woman going all the way forward, right? Not just punching, but these guys, if they're really putting some effort into punching, right? Let me see if I can show you. Okay. It's right in here, right? This is sliding forward. So if you slam a door closed, yes, there's tricep, yes, there's pectoralis major, but if you really push, right, this scapula slides forward, okay? And that's, again, this guy here, let's see, right here, that right there is sliding forward when he punches. That's serratus anterior, so it's going to be involved with giving your punch a real, giving it all, right? Giving it all of what you got, okay? Okay. Let's go down to the abs. We have a few ab muscles, and all of the ab muscles generally start down at the lower portion of your abdomen. Makes sense, right? They're called abdominal muscles. But then a bunch of them start on the rib cage as well. So when you look at the rectus abdominis, for example, it starts at the rib cage and the sternum and goes all the way down to the pubic bones. Okay? So we're talking up in this region and then down here on the pubic bone, and you're going to see a shortening of the distance there. What that's going to do, if you were to bow forward, you are shortening that distance. This is, again, this is going to be a flexion, because 180 degrees, any bow forward, making the angle smaller. Okay, so we're going to have flexion of the vertebral column. I think what I put on your list, I said flexion of the trunk, right? Flexion of the abdomen region, flexion of the torso, something like that. It's a bowing forward motion. So what else is going to do this? Well, when you do leg raises, that's generally going to tighten those muscles. Here we see a guy doing a motion that will pull that pubic bone up closer to the sternum. And we've got a cat doing it even, right? So crunches, sit-ups, right, are going to do that. The name would be rectus abdominis. The action would be flexion of the torso. Something like that. All right, what about some of these other abdominal muscles? We have external and internal oblique muscles. Now, oblique muscles, they run, if we look at the externals, they run in this direction, okay? And they all head on down towards, again, the pubic bone, but they're attaching up here on the rib cage. Okay, now the insertion point is the pubic bone, so if these actually shorten and pull one bone closer to the other, then your whole body is going to twist towards the center, okay? If you consider the external obliques on this side, same kind of thing is going to happen, okay? And your whole body would fold, right? Or one side, your body would twist, you would rotate, okay? Now on the list, I think I wrote it down, the obliques are going to cause rotation of the trunk or flexion of the trunk. Sometimes they'll say lateral rotation because you're twisting out laterally, and the flexion part is kind of implied, okay? The internal obliques go quite the opposite direction. So we'll put in yellow what internals do. Internals start on the pubic bone and they go up, excuse me. Internal obliques do quite the opposite. They start down here on the hip and they go up to the rib cage slightly differently, okay? But again, the effect's going to be the same. We're going to have flexion and or rotation. And every time that you do sit-ups like this, right, or twisting crunches like this, left elbow to right knee, right elbow to left knee, that's going to get those obliques into the act, not just the rectus abdominis. All right, the last one, and I just have some corny picks here for this one, is transverse abdominal. These are going to run around the abdomen in this direction, and then they would go all the way around the other side. So it's kind of like running around the body like a belt. Okay, so when you suck your gut in, it's the transverse abdominal playing a role there. This is called compression. Okay, and these guys, you can see if I leave them marked there that they're all sucking in when this young lady walks by, and then they let it out, right? So they have that transverse abdominal working for them earlier, and then they can release it, let it go, okay? Here you see somebody using that rectus abdominis as well, or rectus abdominal muscle. Okay, next one, intercostals. Intercostals are found between the ribs. Big surprise, between, costal has something to do with the ribs. These are going to allow for the elevation. So when you take a big breath in, right, elevate the ribs when you inhale, and then when you exhale, you're going to depress the ribs. So elevation, bringing something up, just like we saw the temporalis would elevate the mandible. That would be our action. Here, it's elevation of the rib cage. But a whole other set of the intercostals also depress the rib cage. So one set does the elevation, another set does the depression. So I've got some people breathing heavy here. And when they do that, these are certainly involved. The diaphragm is also involved during that breathing motion. When you breathe in, the diaphragm pulls down and the rib cage moves out. And this helps us to get a big breath in when it comes to that. All right, let's skip on to the back now. We got a few back muscles. Let's do the 3 back muscles we got left for this clip, okay? All right, so we've got trapezius muscle. Trapezius muscle runs along the spinous processes. So we're talking along the cervical vertebrae and the thoracic vertebrae. This is where that muscle starts, and it inserts on your scapula bones, okay? Now, if we consider just the fibers like here, fibers that run from here where the origin is, and they run down to the scapula, and when they shorten that distance, it's going to pull that scapula up, right? So, shrug your shoulders, right? That's going to elevate the scapula bones. That's one action of the trapezius muscle, okay? But these fibers also originate here, right in the middle of the two, and we would see that it would pull the scapula bones towards the middle as well. So we'd also have adduction of the scapula bones, like with the rowing motion, right? Every time you do a rowing motion, those scapula bones come closer to one another. Okay, pretty active in swimming as well. A lot of those swimming motions, this guy's got some dumbbells and he's facing downward. Those would definitely be using the trapezius muscle. And the reason they call it trapezius, by the way, is because it makes a trapezoid shape, four-sided figure on the back. Okay. Okay. Erector spiny muscles. I think it's spiny muscles, actually, they would say. A lot of times this has an E sound, an A-E as an E sound. All right, so this could be just simply going from a bowed position and standing straight up, right? If you're slouched and then you stand straight up, the erector spiny is going to hold you straight up, okay? So when you stand straight up, you're standing erect, so it's a good name, right? And these muscles run right along the spine. I'll just show you on this guy over here. They would run all along the spine here. There's actually 3 sets that are part of the erector spiny muscles, okay? And they're going to pull this portion of your back closer to this portion of your back, so you're going to stand straight up, okay? So think about bowing, right? The bowing, that's flexion down, but then, okay, flexion and then extension, okay? Flexion is making the angle smaller, extension is coming up. If I really bend back, I'm hyperextending, okay? So that would be one. This guy's got some dumbbells. Every time he stands straight up, he's using that erector spiny muscle. Or picking up Jimmy Fallon here, like this guy, right? When he stands up, those erector spiny muscles are activated, all right? Now, these also show that the erector spiny muscles, depending on which side is activated, can actually move you side to side. And they're showing you right there where those erector spiny muscles are, right? Okay, last one. And then we're done, and all we have left is the legs, okay? So we have the Latissimus Dorsi muscle. Okay, latissimus. That reminds me of lateral when I see that word. So these are muscles going to go laterally on the side of your back. And dorsi or dorsi, sometimes they'll say, for the dorsal side of your body, okay? That's the back side. Now, I'm just going to trace here on this guy's back about where we're talking here. This is the origin of this muscle down in the small of the back, okay? And this muscle basically spans all around this direction, okay? All around this way. All around this way, right? On the other side as well. Okay? And it's going to pull not on any part of the rib cage, but it's going to pull on this guy's arm. It's going to pull on the humerus bone. So it's going to pull that humerus bone back and towards the middle. Okay? So if I have my arms forward, let's say, okay? My arms forward, and I'm going to pull. I'm not going to push the bar out. I'm going to pull the bar. Or think about doing pull-ups, right? Every time I do a pull-up, okay, so I pull my body up, my humerus bone is going back, is it not? Right? It's going back, and that's where my Latissimus dorsi is originating, right? So it makes sense that it would pull the arm back, the humerus bone back, and it's pulling my arms closer to the center. Adduction. So, extension of the arms, adduction of the arms. Notice that in this case, it's extending the arms and bringing them towards the middle, adduction. But then in the front, we have other muscles that will flex the arms and also adduct the humerus bones. Pectoralis major, right? So both of them can adduct. It's just that one is pulling the arms forward, pectoralis major, the other is pulling the arms back, latissimus dorsi. Okay? So if you want a big kind of a V shape, a lot of times people want that, male and female, right? They want to look thinner in the waist, so they want to build up the side so they have this V shape. And that's one way to do it, is to do pull-ups or the pull-down bar, right? So you don't have to pull up all of your weight. This guy looks kind of funky, but that is actually working the back muscles. The lats are being involved there. This guy, definitely a back workout, right? Pulling his body up, and those arms being pulled down closer to the midline every time. Adduction. We've got a cat doing it. Okay. Got Wade doing it, basketball player. Okay. Okay. So I think that's good enough for now. We've got all of the torso muscles taken care of. All we have left is the hip, thigh, and leg muscles. And we'll do that and be done with it on the next clip.